Hi everyone, I'm Yulia Burlakova, and in this video I'm going to show you why heated rivalry emotionally hijacks us and why that reaction is deeply rooted in psychology. And I'm going to share that with you, well, because I'm a psychologist and a team coach. So, for the last 20 years, I've been trying to understand why do our hearts react like this or that. And also, I'm an immigrant from Russia living in Barcelona since the Russian invasion to Ukraine. So I resonate with this Russianness of heated rivalry a lot. And the thing I love the most in this world is being inspired and then sharing that inspiration with, well, pretty much with anyone who cares to listen. And for the past few months, nobody around me has escaped my obsession with heated rivalry. I'm its unofficial ambassador, completely unironically saying, as many of you here, I'm pretty sure. So now it's your turn. Let me infect you with two things I'm really thrilled about this series and Jungian psychology. I want to show you something that I think could probably enhance or even change your perception of this piece, of this masterpiece. So, today I want to explore heated rivalry through Jungian psychology and especially through the lens of one very old fairy tale, The Beauty and the Beast. Because I believe Shane and Ilya are not simply opposites, they are mirror images of each other's hidden selves. And that is exactly why they become impossible for one another to resist. Shall we? So I told Jungian psychology, yeah? Who is Carl Gustav Jung? Well, he's an exceptional thinker of the 20th century. He has developed his own vision of human psyche, and what's even more important, the way our personality evolves in the course of a lifetime. And one of his breakthrough ideas is the collective unconsciousness and the archetypes within each of us binding day to day experience. Well, because each of us has experienced being a child, a hero, a parent, a creator, or even a lover, hopefully. These are some of the fundamental states of the self. And many of Jung's ideas are rooted in fairy tales, myths, and legends from different cultures. Because in the past, people created and told stories not only for entertainment, but also as a way to understand themselves and reflect on human experience, at least until psychotherapy was invented, and frankly, even after that. Now, let's have a look at the popular fairy tale, The Beauty and the Beast, through Jung's eyes, and let's explore the emotional dynamic that echoes the relationship between Ilya and Shane in Heated Rivalry. And even more important, what's in their own heads individually. Beauty and the Beast is a story about separation and coming of age. Young woman separating from her father, which means stepping outside of the world where she's safe, approved of, beloved, and ripening into herself and into the world. In Russia, we grew up with our own version of this fairy tale called The Little Scarlet Flower by Aksakov. Same story, different cultural background, and the same Jungian map underneath. The flower thing is important because it's a great hidden sexuality on a symbolic level, which is pretty much what the heated rivalry show is about, right? Now, all the characters in the fairy tale are parts of one psyche, not separate people. One's past, one's social mask or persona, one's sincere desire, and even shadows. So let's picture this map of a psyche. That's what fairy tales are for. Father is her past, the world where everything is safe and known. Her sisters, who want fancy gifts, who wants luxury, they are her personas, the social masks. what we show to the world to be accepted and to navigate in our social roles like career, taxes, money, or me telling this story to you, thinking whether I'll get any views and likes or not. But she wants a little scarlet flower. What is it? It is the first sign of her separation. That little scarlet flower is her sexuality, her eros, her menstruation, and most importantly, it is her own choice. I want this not because someone else wants fancy garment and jewelry, because I want it, because I choose it. As my grandmother, Russian babushka, used to say, it's dear to me not because it's good because it is dear to me. And this is how the beauty, our hero, begins to say goodbye to her past, moving towards her own choices, towards her own desires. And this is what maturing actually looks like, not age, not achievement. The moment we choose something because we chose it. And through a series of twists, she ends up in a castle, apparently not by her own choice, but that is also part of a contract that we sign by growing up. None of us grows up on our own terms. We are all hostages of time. That is the greatest dictatorship of our lives, isn't it? We are all moving in one known direction, and as far as we know, nobody has yet managed to reverse the flow. So, what is the castle? In Jungian terms, it is a map of the psyche. She explores room after room, just as each of us day by day explores our own patterns, reactions, feelings, dreams, and she's destined to find the beast there, because she's a young femininity that has been suppressing its animus. Animus is what Jung called masculine part of anyone, boys, girls, whoever. That thing that goes rough, masculine, aggressive, ugly. We girls are all about flowers and ribbons, as if. So, what on earth is this hideous creature doing lurking in the corner of my personality? Well, something that embodies boldness, disobedience, wildness. And only through choosing this part of herself, first seeing it, oh, you exist in my castle, then accepting it, okay, you live here too, and finally even loving it. Oh dear, seems like you're an inseparable part of me. Through what Jung calls the sacred marriage of anima and animus, which means female and male parts of our personality, does she become whole, the self, complete. The animus is integrated, the ugly beast transforms into the prince. And now all those wild, bald, wounded masculine traits, they can finally be put to work in the name of her own good. So in case we thought that the story was about obedience and codependency, it's actually quite the opposite. It's a feminist manifesto, like, come on girls, let's embrace the beast within and enjoy ourselves happily ever after. So we are very happy for Beauty and her integrated beast. And each of us lives this same story in every new chapter of growing up, maturing on each stage of our lives. But for me, the magic to admire is don't you see that Heated Rivalry series gives us an outstanding illustration of all of the above? And by the way, we shouldn't be fooled by Eros, though Eros is exactly what he does, fooling us. I mean, of course, I have to say, thanks to the eroticism of this show, it is a hermitage level of eroticism. Frankly, well, now about 90% of the Hermitage collection could theoretically be prosecuted for queer propaganda in Russia. Yeah, it is forbidden. Though Hermitage is not forbidden yet. Well, but what can we do? The ancient Greeks admired themselves in this particular genre, and we admire them right back. And the physical beauty of the series is a scandalously great entry point. But let's not be fooled by the surface level, because it is deeply intellectual show. And if we look at it as a Jungian fairy tale, that is exactly what we get. Huge intellectual and psychological insight. For me, Shane is a beauty concealing the beast within. Because, well, we have at the start a model beauty, so in this case a boa. Shane Hollander, a Canadian player of Asian descent, a prodigy and Mr. Perfect, a golden child, and the kind of a person you want to see on a poster in your room during the teenage years. But in his castle of his psyche, through perfectionism, through hyper control, hyper responsibility, lives, of course, the suppressed beast. So much has been channeled into career, into maintaining an impeccable image, and into doing the right things, that when he meets Ilya, he inevitably resonates with his exact opposite. The Mr. Ideal was meant to discover this beast in the castle. Ilya is, on the contrary, the beast disguised in a beauty. Ilya Rozanov, messy, haughty, ostentatiously brutal, tough, as if again. And he goes like, "Good day, comrades. I am dominant, Brutalovich, Brutalski. I shall now channel my toxic masculinity onto every living creature here. Admire me immediately. Look at how irresistible I am in this mess I create." But he also has his castle of the psyche with something to keep as a forbidden secret. He learned to survive by performing the beast and denying the opposite. And in his castle, the suppressed one is the beauty. Everything in Ilya unconsciously is screaming about the vulnerable deficiency inside, while his conscious mind stays masculine and frozen. Because after his mother passed away, in order to survive, he suppressed everything to do with tenderness, weakness, the possibility of being held by someone, of being seen from a place of his vulnerability and being accepted and supported in that vulnerability. All of that buried in the furthest corridors of his psyche, cemetery of inner femininity within Ilya. So he meets beauty. Well, as far as they are so opposite, how could they even fall for each other? Well, they could only connect through overwhelming, uncontrollable sexual attraction as opposed to their fully controlled social armor. And okay, their sports rivalry is absolutely ultimate. And that's how great masterpieces are killing us softly with those words. Like Montecchi and Capuletti are the biggest enemy families, yeah? And that's why exactly Romeo and Juliet's fall for each other is deadly, lethal. Thanks, William Shakespeare, we are already crying. And of course, to make Jungian symbols even more vivid, their meeting happens exactly on eyes. Because for Jung, water is the element of unconscious, of feeling, of emotions. It represents the deeps of the soul and the feminine essence of it. And their meeting happens on this frozen surface where life is suspended in glass, in the frozenness of their spontaneity, cutting through it with their very masculine blades. There they carve through their own suppressed instincts. So, where is the melting? Their first scene in the locker room is literally the removal of armor. As Fritz Perls, the father of Gestalt therapy, said, "The body is stupid, but the body is honest." This is their Little Scarlet Flower. And it seems at first glance to be a very clear genre of dynamic, dominant and submissive, a bad boy and a golden boy. We all know what this is. Everything is predictable, except nothing is predictable at all. And Jacob, the magician, will soon prove it, archetypically saying. about the director of the movie. The mirror inversions, before we go further, I'd like to point out that extraordinary numbers of other mirror inversions in this series. Not only Ilya and Shane mirror each other, their parents, for example, do it as well. Ilya's father is a punishing law, and he represents the shadow of a warrior archetype according to Jung, sadistic and unloving one. He rejects, he humiliates, he shames, and his key message to his son is, "You should be shamed." This is toxic masculinity raised to the limit. Ilya's father is in dementia, and on a symbolic level, it means that he's lost contact with the reality. And furthermore, he represents the punitive organs of state power, which underlines his sadistic shadow warrior archetype. He lost connection long ago with his wife, now with his consciousness, and certainly with his sons. And Ilya's son's fate, until he makes his own separation from the family system, is to respond this contract with agreement. "I'm ashamed, father." Heartbreaking to listen. Moreover, this rejecting and punishing figure, he further confuses the young man with his constant double messages. Remember where it should be triumph, where he says, "Well, he's lazy, he needs discipline," instead of praising and being proud of his son while talking to the coach during drafts. And when he offers him alcohol after a devastating Olympic loss, as if initiating him in a masculine manner, and then just a sentence later tells him, "And he is drinking, look at him," shaming for the drink he has just offered Ilya by himself. That's my body remembers. The opposite paternal figure is Shane's father. This is a loving law. That's why his main message to Shane is, "I love you so much, and I'm so proud of you, and I support you in every way." And please notice that while Ilya's father is police, Shane's father is a treasury, which means he's about, keeping, thriving, and financial health, which his son learned perfectly, as you remember. And mothers are also opposite mirror images. Shane's mother is extremely present, and Ilya's mother is extremely absent. Shane's mother is so present that sometimes we wish she were less. Sometimes we want to tell her, "Comrade manager, please leave your son alone for 15 minutes." But of course, she devotes herself entirely to him. She runs around with his contracts, brands, deals. She manages his personal brand. And she needed that cathartic experience of Shane's coming out, and only after that she saw the light enough to ask him for forgiveness. "Forgive me for having a feeling next to me that you couldn't share with me." So anima raised in Shane, thriving, and lets him enjoy attachment and choices done intuitively and in his own interest. He is taught to take care of himself via healthy anima, initiated by a loving mother. Well, Ilya's mother, unfortunately, is totally opposite. She will never be able to ask him for forgiveness because Ilya's mother is as absent as possible. She herself lives this life due to depression, which makes the anima for Ilya impossible. That feminine part of the soul, tenderness, warmth, the ability to receive help, the ability to be with one's feeling is forbidden. And that vulnerable part of Ilya's psyche simply had nowhere to come from. No one was there to initiate the feminine part of dominant Brutalski. And this is why it is such a momentous decision that Shane makes when he proposes to find a hockey school for children, naming it after Ilya's mother, Irina. The story makes a full circle. An adult person voluntarily reintegrates the lost anima into the system, for which we warmly congratulate both of our heroes. It's really very important. It's fate-sized step forward, returning the anima into Ilya's field, to the life of his soul when he proposes naming a foundation. Thus, his mother returns. That's such a powerful idea of Shane. By the way, talking about Shane's leadership, there is such a temptation to assume that if Ilya dominates sexually, he will dominate emotionally too. He baits us with our own expectations. And yes, for example, in communication, Ilya is just as toxic and dominant. But on the emotional level, it is Ilya who first calls his lover by name. It is Ilya who first says, I love you. Ilya who cries first. Ilya who recognizes that what he's experiencing is far more than a sexual connection. Meanwhile, Shane, the submissive one by every gender stereotype, solves the practical stuff, lays out strategies so multi layered that their future gets mapped out before Ilya even realizes what is happening. He builds houses. So, who is really that masculine and feminine here? Who's beauty and who's the beast after all? Okay, Shane is definitely intriguing, but what gives me the most chills is the internal dynamic of Ilya, especially his gradual, step by step removal of armor from surviving subpersonality to true self. So, if this video gets the response that my inner creator will crave for right from the second I push publish button, like you remember that sweet little rat from the dopamine experiments, I will record the next episode about Ilya's journey from armor to authenticity, from his surviving self to his true self. So I'll be desperately waiting for your likes and subscribes and comments, of course. My Russian version of this video collected about 200 comments, and we just have great discussion there, exciting one. And why I'm so looking forward making the next episode, which is called Ilya is in armor, armor is in Ilya. Well, because I live every episode of Ilya's masked depression with my own skin, because it's exactly how we grew up in this constant double bind and double messages. Because on the one hand, in Soviet childhood, it was emotional deprivation. Your feelings don't particularly bother anyone. And at the same time, you have to achieve some kind of super results in school and at home on a daily basis. From the smell of a rusty underpass from which Ilya calls Shane and speaks Russian, to his loneliness, remember, at the very peaks of his success, and seemingly joyful experience like getting the cup but having the most tragical face after. All this grins from inside and cuts right through as the most exquisite traumatization for me. That's why that stupid Canadian wolf bird is so bloody scary. Ooh.